A warm welcome to everyone in the anesthesia classes. The topic that we are going to deal today is the anesthesia machine. This is quite an elaborative topic, so this session will only include part 1 of the anesthesia machine, which is the high pressure system. See, when we talk about anesthesia machine, this forms a very important part of the questions of your past exams, and it has been seen that it is very scoring because of the fact that the questions from the anesthesia machine are quite straightforward. But the only problem with anesthesia machine is that you have to revise the machine again and again, because other than the conceptual part of the machine, there is a lot to memorize in the anesthesia machine too. So moving forward with the anesthesia machine, the history. The very first machine, the anesthesia machine concept, was given by Guattmain. This name is worth remembering. Guattmain was the first person to give the concept of the anesthesia machine. After this, what happened was, on the basis of the same principle that a conventional machine which Guattmain made, two other kinds of machine were made. One was to deliver intermittent flow of anesthesia, and the other machine was developed to give a continuous flow of anesthesia. See, this is Mackensen. These days, image-based questions have become very popular, so please look at it very carefully. This machine is the Mackensen machine. Mackensen machine was meant to deliver intermittent flow of anesthesia. And this is the Boyle's machine, which was the first machine to develop the continuous flow of anesthesia delivery system. It gave us continuous flow of anesthesia. It was made by Henry Edmund Gaskell Boyle. And these days, with the further advancement in technologies, most of the operation theaters now use the anesthesia workstation. Boyle's apparatus, yes, even nowadays you can find the Boyle's apparatus specifically in peripheries and in many tertiary care centers also. But mostly now what we use is anesthesia workstations. There were two other models which were developed to deliver the continuous flow of anesthesia, which were Hidbrink and Forager. So the question that was formed in the past year was, out of the following, which does not give continuous flow of anesthesia? The options: the Boyle's apparatus, Hidbrink, Forager, or Mackensen. So the answer is Mackensen, which is meant to deliver the intermittent flow of anesthesia. Now coming over to the uses of the anesthesia machine. The foremost uses: to deliver oxygen to the patient. Secondly, to deliver an accurate, which has to be precise but variable, flow of anesthesia gases. Then to provide manual and controlled ventilation to the patient. And eventually, in the modern day workstations, there are certain safety features to prevent the delivery of a hypoxic mixture to the patient. Then there is scavenging system to collect and dispose of all the waste anesthesia gases in order to decrease the OT pollution. And lastly, we have a data management system ports also, which helps us in recording what are we giving to the patient or what are the monitors of the patient. Now coming over to the anesthesia machine components. See, when we talk about the machine, the anesthesia machine has two components. One are electrical components and the other is pneumatic components. When we talk about the electrical component, it has a master switch. The master switch is meant to switch on the electrical as well as the pneumatic component. This is the main switch, and generally when the machine is not in use, the master switch is also in the off position. But when the master switch is off, the only thing that is being run is your battery charger or your electrical outlets that are present on the machine. Okay. And one more interesting thing which will be coming in detail in your intermediate pressure system also, the only pneumatic component of the whole machine which is independent of the master switch is your oxygen flush. Please remember this right now. We'll again come to this concept. But the only pneumatic component which is independent of the master switch is your oxygen flush, which is an emergency aid. The second, we have the power failure indicators, which gives us a red light blinking. Suppose we have battery backup which is not good, or the electrical outlets have failed. So those indicators are present on the anesthesia machine in order to warn us. We have a reserve power backup. We have electrical outlets which are meant only to deliver electricity to the anesthesia monitors and not to the common OT, maybe your electrosurgical units or your vacuums, etc. It is meant only for the anesthesia monitors. Then you have circuit breakers in order to prevent if there is some high load so that the machine does not go haywire. And lastly, we have your data communication ports which are present in your modern day anesthesia workstation. Having a look, we have your electrical circuits. These are generally present on the back of the machine. Okay, like this is the master switch you can have. Then you have electrical circuits which are meant to give electrical outlets to your anesthesia monitors. Then on the front of your anesthesia machine you have certain signs like this which tells you that yes, it is being charged, the battery backup is present or not, and red light blinks on it as a warning sign for you that there is no reserve power or the battery is not charging. Then this is when the machine is plugged in. This tells you that yes, the machine is on a standby. Then you have the circuit breakers which are present on the back of your machine. You have power outlets, and eventually you have certain connections for your scavenging systems and your circuit breakers. This all forms the part of your electrical component of anesthesia machine. Now moving forwards to your pneumatic component of the anesthesia machine. When we talk about pneumatic components, it is divided into three parts. High pressure, which is going to deliver a pressure of, talking about the main gases that we use, and these are the pressures you all have to remember. 2000 psi is the pressure of the oxygen cylinder generally that we use on our anesthesia machine. And the second most important gas that we use in anesthesia is your nitrous oxide, that is delivered at 760 psi. But these pressures are far too high that can be delivered to patients, and thus eventually your high pressure system is converted to your intermediate pressure system through certain pressure regulators, and eventually your intermediate pressure system is converted to low pressure system through second stage pressure regulators, and these are the low pressure gases that are eventually delivered to the patient. So today in this session what we are going to learn is the high pressure component of the anesthesia machine. The high pressure component generally consists of your cylinders. There are various other parts of this also, we'll be coming to it. This is the overview of the pneumatic component of your anesthesia machine. Talking about the high pressure system consists of your cylinders. Generally, the cylinders are present in the central supply of your hospital. They form a part of your high pressure system. Then you have the second is your check valves. Please remember that every system is going to have a check valve in order to prevent the back or the reverse flow of the gases. These are unidirectional check valves. It has two main functions. One, it checks that no reverse flow of the gas is there. Plus, these check valves are also meant to see that in case you have two cylinders that are attached to anesthesia machine. These two gases do not mix with each other. So these are the two functions of these check valves that are present. Then, of course, you have cylinders, you have pressure in the cylinders. So you must have something to check that pressure. So that pressure is checked by using your cylinder pressure gauges. This is another part of your high pressure system. And eventually, as I've already told, the high pressure gases are converted into intermediate pressure system with the help of first stage pressure regulator. Even this forms a part of your high pressure system. I repeat, when we talk about the high pressure system, it consists of your cylinders, your check valves, your cylinder pressure gauges, and your first stage pressure regulators. Okay. These are the components of the high pressure system: your cylinders, your cylinder pressure indicator gauges, and your pressure reducing regulators. This part, hanger yoke assembly, is another very important part of high pressure system and also a safety system of your high pressure. Half of this hanger yoke assembly is present on the anesthesia machine and half is present on the cylinder. Now coming first to the cylinders. See, when we talk about the cylinders, what are the cylinders made up of is a very potential question which is asked, which was and may be asked too. See, first the cylinders were made of steel, but nowadays the cylinders are made up of alloy of molybdenum and chromium, and they are tagged with 3AA marking. This is the marking which is present on the cylinders. It is made up of molybdenum plus chromium. But there are certain special cylinders also which are MRI compatible. Those cylinders are made up of aluminium and they are marked by 3ALM. That stands for aluminium. These are special cylinders meant for MRI use. Now, when we talk about cylinders, we have various sizes of cylinders, and all the cylinders sizes are alphabetically arranged, with smallest being AA and highest being your H. H are the type of cylinders which are present in your central supply. And the most commonly used cylinder in your anesthesia machine is your E type of cylinder. Please remember, the most common type of cylinder used in the anesthesia machine is your E cylinder. And for transport purposes, the main cylinders that are used are your D cylinders, which were used for transport purposes on the anesthesia machine, central supply, and the smallest of the cylinders. Now moving onward to a concept of critical temperature. See, when we talk about the cylinders can have gases in it, the cylinders can have liquids in it. We can have gases which are non-liquefied, and then we can have liquefied compressed gases in the cylinders. Liquefied compressed gases. Now, whether a gas can be liquefied or not liquefied, that depends upon the critical temperature of the gas. What is the critical temperature? This is the temperature above which, howsoever pressure you apply, no gas can ever be liquefied. Just remember, critical temperature is that temperature above which you apply as much pressure you want to apply, but no gas is going to change into liquid. That's your critical temperature. So now if you see clearly, the critical temperature of oxygen is minus 119 degrees Celsius. You have to remember this value, the critical temperature of oxygen is minus 119 degrees Celsius. So any temperature which is above this, your oxygen cannot be liquefied. That is the reason why oxygen is always present in the form of gas, and it is present in the form of gas in your cylinders also. But that is not true for your nitrous oxide. Your nitrous oxide has a critical temperature of 36.5 degrees Celsius, and thus nitrous oxide can be formed in the form of liquid in the cylinders. Generally, nitrous oxide is a liquid when filled in the cylinders. So we have liquefied compressed gases, which are nitrous, and your carbon dioxide. The special part of these kind of cylinders are the liquefied compressed gas cylinders are never completely filled. These are the assertion and the reason questions that come in your AIMS exam. The assertion states that the liquefied compressed gases can never be completely filled. The reason behind is the application of the Charles law. Is it true or is it false? The answer is true, because according to Charles' law, the pressure is directly proportional to the temperature. So if it is completely filled and by any chance the temperature rises, the pressure is going to rise and the cylinder is going to burst. That is the reason why liquefied compressed gases are never completely filled, because we'll come to this point. Then in liquefied compressed gases, above liquid we have a lot of gas in the form of vapors of those liquid which gets evaporated. So liquefied compressed gases are never completely filled, because your pressure is directly proportional to the temperature, and any changes in the temperature can lead to bursting of your cylinders. And when we talk about non-liquefied compressed gases, the examples are oxygen and air, which is most commonly used. These days we have a very special use of helium also. That's a star kind question that you can get. These days helium as a gas has also become very important. This is an inert gas, and the importance of helium, if I share with you, is that it decreases the viscosity of your oxygen. Yeah, it decreases the viscosity. So heliox, helium plus oxygen, these days is being given in patients who have upper airway obstructions. In those patients we give heliox these days. So that is a new use of helium that has been discovered. Other than that, one value again which you all have to remember is how much ml of gas can 1 ml of liquid oxygen can give. See, liquid oxygen became very important in COVID times when the concept of oxygen concentrators came. Even in peripheries where you don't have the oxygen cylinders readily available, even at home facilities as domiciliary cylinders, we use oxygen concentrators which have oxygen in the form of liquid in that. So 1 ml of that liquid oxygen can provide 840 ml of gas. Okay. So I hope the concept of critical temperature is clear to everyone, and the gases can be two types. One is liquefied and one are non-liquefied gases. Liquefied gases, your nitrous and carbon dioxide, and non-liquefied gases are your oxygen, air and helium. Now moving to a very important concept of your pressure changes. See, when we talk about the cylinder, each cylinder has a pressure gauge which is attached to it so that we can check the pressure. When you are talking about a non-liquefied gas like oxygen, sorry, this pressure is going to decrease as the contents are withdrawn. That is equally proportionate. As the oxygen is being withdrawn, the pressure is going to decrease simultaneously. So the reading is quite easy and you can know when the cylinder gets over. But such is not the case when we talk about liquefied gases. See, when we talk about the liquefied gases, every liquid has the tendency to evaporate and form vapors. And when vapors are formed, there is a vapor pressure that is generated. And this is the vapor pressure which can be seen on these pressure gauges. And this vapor pressure is going to remain constant till the liquid has finished. So eventually the pressure in the pressure gauges will decrease only when the whole of the liquid has already been finished and your vapor pressure is eventually decreasing because it is always in equilibrium with each other. So your pressure gauge is always going to show you the same reading until and unless your liquid has got over. Thus, your pressure always nearly remains constant till all the liquid has evaporated, and eventually when it falls, there is no liquid is left in the cylinder. So, for liquefied gases, what we use for checking is the tar weight. It is not the pressure gauge that we look at the weight of the cylinder to see how much actually the liquefied gas has been left in the cylinder. So these two concepts are very important. How are we going to check a non-liquefied gas cylinder with the use of a pressure gauge, and how are we going to check a liquefied gas cylinder, that is by using their tar weight. This are certain pressures which you all have to memorize and you have to revise again and again in order to remember them. Most important is your oxygen and your nitrous oxide and your carbon dioxide. When we talk about the oxygen, the H type has 2000 psi and the E type of the cylinder, the E type of the cylinder, which are the most commonly used cylinders, it has a pressure of 2000 psi and a volume of 660 liters. Yeah, you have to remember this, that the E type of oxygen cylinders has a pressure of 2000 psi and a volume of 660 liters. Whereas your nitrous oxide, when we talk, it has 750 psi with a volume of 1590 liter. It is generally in the liquefied form. And carbon dioxide has a pressure which is quite similar to your nitrous oxide, that is 720 psi. Now talking about the cylinder per se, each cylinder has various parts. It has a base on which it stands. It has a body. It has shoulders, neck and valve. This is the main components of a cylinder. Coming one by one to the most important parts which were asked, one is your valve. This is your valve of the cylinder. The most common type of valve that are used in your anesthesia machines are your flush valves. Okay, the most common type of valves that are used on the anesthesia machine are your flush valve. Whereas in the medium and large size cylinders that we have, there we use the bull hose valves. These are generally present in your medium size or your large size cylinders. And when we talk about these valves, what is the main function of these valves? These are the part of the cylinders which are used to withdraw and fill the cylinder with the gases. The valve is the most important part of your cylinder, which is used to dissipate and also to fill the cylinder with the gas. That is done through your valve. And remember, I had talked about a hanger yoke assembly. The valve is which forms the part of the hanger yoke assembly, because this is the part of the cylinder that helps the cylinder to get attached to the anesthesia machine also. This valve is rotated on a stem in an anti-clockwise direction in order to open it, such that the gases can be withdrawn from the cylinder to your anesthesia machine. And these valves further are of two types. You only have to remember the name of the types. The flush valves can be of packed valves and diaphragm valves. These are further two kinds of valves that are present. What is the valve? It is flush type that fits on the anesthesia machine in the hanger yoke assembly. It is of two types, packed and diaphragm valves. These valves are of a shape of spindle and they are made up of bronze and brass. And out of the packed and the diaphragm, the most common is packed. So two things about the valves you have to remember. One, it is made up of bronze, brass. Most common flush type of valve that is present on the anesthesia machine, or packed valves are present on the anesthesia machines, which are most common. And valves are most important part of the machine through which the gases can be filled and discharged. And this is the part that attaches the cylinder to your anesthesia machine via your hanger yoke assembly. Then for every valve to open, we have a hand wheel or a wrench that is present. Please see the images very carefully because questions can come upon the use of these things. What are this? This is hand wheel or wrench which opens the cylinder in an anti-clockwise direction. Then when we talk about the cylinders, every cylinder valve has certain parts. This is the valve or the spindle. Please see the image very carefully. This is the back of the valve and this is the front. By front, I mean that this is the part of the cylinder that is going to attach to your anesthesia machine. Just look at the parts. First is the port. This is the exit of the gas. This is the exit of the gas through which the gas is going to go into the anesthesia machine. And this port attaches to nipple which is present on the anesthesia machine. This port attaches to nipple. Just below this port, you can have two holes which are present here. This forms the part of your pin index system, which is a safety mechanism for proper alignment of the correct cylinder to the anesthesia machine. And the part of the pin index system which is present on the valve are the holes of the pin index system. We'll talk about pin index system in detail. We have holes of the pin index system which are present just below the port for the exit of the gases. This is the front. Coming to the back. In the back, we have a conical depression. This conical depression is meant for attachment of the cylinder to a retaining screw. Such that you can screw the cylinder tightly on the anesthesia machine. This conical depression is for retaining screw, and please never confuse your port for your conical depression. And just below this conical depression, we have another safety mechanism that are your pressure relief valves. Pressure relief valves is if by any chance the pressure of the cylinder increases. So these valves helps to dissipate the extra pressure. These pressure relief valves are of three types: fusible plug, ruptured disc, and pressure relief valves which are spring loaded. The fusible types are temperature dependent, and they have a yield temperature. That is, because of the pressure increase, we have temperature increase, and that temperature increase is going to rupture that valve and the fusible plug, and eventually all the extra gases will get dissipate. But this is irreversible. Once it's damaged, it is damaged, and it get damaged at what temperature? That is known as the yields temperature. And this fusible plug is made up of a very special uh, metal, which is the Woods metal. This Woods metal is actually a combination of a alloy of cadmium and bismuth, etc. Just remember this, we have a fusible plug that ruptures at a temperature known as yield temperature, and it is made up of Woods metal. Then you have ruptured type of pressure relief valve. In ruptured type, you have temperature. That is, when the pressure increases, the temperature increases, it ruptures, or it also ruptures by overfilling. This is also irreversible. But the spring loaded pressure relief valves are reversible. That is, the spring will vent the gases, and after the pressure has come back to the normal, the spring is also going to come back to the normal position. So this is reversible type of pressure relief valve that is present on your cylinders. Now coming to another very important concept upon filling of the cylinders. When we talk about the non-liquefied gases, they are filled at a pressure known as the service pressure. That is the maximum pressure till which the cylinder can be filled at 70 degree Fahrenheit. And according to the standardization, it is only plus 10% of this filling pressure that the cylinder can be filled. But when we talk about the liquefied compressed gases, then we talk about the filling ratios. The liquefied gases are filled using filling ratios, which is the percentage of the weight of the gas to the weight of water that the cylinder can hold at 60 degree Fahrenheit. What is filling ratio? It is weight of that particular gas upon weight of water that the cylinder can hold at 60 degree Fahrenheit, which for nitrous and CO2 is approximately 68%. So we have a service pressure and we have a filling ratio. Next is, yes, you have to memorize and remember and repeat this, because a number of time in your previous year NEET PGs, these questions have been asked about the color coding of the cylinders, which is the color code for nitrous, which is the color code for oxygen, and now more have been added, like heliox has been added to it, anthrax has been added, your carbon dioxide has been added to this concept. So coming over to the color code, when we talk about the color code, of course, this is for identification of the gas, that which gas has been filled in the cylinder, and also a safety mechanism of the color coding, that this particular cylinder is going to have oxygen only inside it. When we talk about the oxygen has black body with white shoulders. This is the oxygen cylinder. Black body with white shoulders. Nitrous oxide, we have blue. Nitrous is blue. Air is a combination of oxygen and nitrous, but the most important part of air for us is the oxygen. So even air has a black body, but the shoulders are squared in quarters. Black and white shoulders. Carbon dioxide is mixture of black and white. It is gray in color. Helium is brown. Cyclopropane is orange in color, and cyclopropane is a inhalational agent. Please remember this. Cyclopropane is an inhalational agent. And the only potent inhalational agent which is present in the form of gas. It is not liquid, it is present in the form of gas. Rest all the inhalational agents are present in the form of liquid. So cyclopropane per se, which is orange in color, is present in the form of gas. Then recently introduced we have Entonox, which is 50% oxygen and 50% nitrous oxide. Thus, it has a blue body with again quarters present on the shoulder of white and blue. This is your Entonox. And then we have Heliox, which is a mixture of helium and oxygen. It has a black body with black and brown shoulders. So these are the color codes that you all have to remember, because innumerable times these questions have been asked in your AIMS, in your NEET PGs, etc. Now coming over to the hanger yoke assembly. Hanger yoke assembly is again a safety feature, as well as it helps in connecting your cylinder to your anesthesia machine. I've already told you about the parts of the hanger yoke assembly which are present on the cylinder, that is the valve. And now these which I'm showing is, this is the machine. This is the machine end. This is the retaining screw that goes into the conical depression that is present on the valve. This is your hanger yoke. This one, the gate type of hanger yoke. This is your nipple on which the port of the cylinder is going to get attached for the exit of the gases. Surrounding the nipple is very important part which is known by the name of washer, which is to prevent any leak of the gases. This is also known as Bodox seal, made up of neoprene. And only one washer is present. Absence of washer or two washers can have the wrong cylinder to get attached to the pin index. So please remember, there is only one washer that is present around the nipple. And just below this we have the pins that are going to get attached to the holes that are present on the walls. This is your pin index system. These pins are very particularly oriented with respect to which gas cylinder is going to get attached to them. The pins are present on the anesthesia machine. The holes are present on your valve of the cylinder. Again, an overview of hole again. This is your valve, your washer, your nipple, these are your pins. Sorry, this is the port. This is your washer which is present on the port also. This is your nipple and a washer around that. These are your pins, the holes. This is the anesthesia machine part which is going to get attached to your valve. This is the retaining screw. There is a conical depression on back of it, and below this you have a pressure relief valve. This is your cylinder, these are your machine. Again the same, the retaining screw, the conical depression, the valve and the stem, the hanger. I hope the hanger yoke assembly is understandable to all of you and you're well oriented to this now. This is the washer which is meant for tight seal between the cylinder valve and the machine. This is how the washer looks. Please have a look at the image very carefully. This is the washer, made up of neoprene with a rim of aluminium around it. This is made up of neoprene with aluminium and only one washer is present. Coming to yet another very important concept of pin index safety system. Pin index safety system was established in 1952 around to ensure that the correct cylinder is attached to the hanger yoke of the anesthesia machine or the workstation. The spin index system consists of two parts. One are the holes that are present on your cylinder valve and pins which are present on your anesthesia machine hanger yoke. You have two pins for every machine for every gas. Okay. When we talk about the pins, we have 6 pins in total, which are arranged in the form of an arc. This arc forms a circle whose center is your port. Okay. The diameter of this arc is 9 by 16 inch. This is the arc which is formed with the port at the center, and each hole is separated by an angle of 12 degrees, and the distance between the first pin and the sixth pin is of around 12 millimeters. Each pin is around 4 mm in diameter and 6 mm long. I know I am telling a lot of values, but all the values of pin index safety system are very important. I repeat, this forms a circle with the center at the port of radius 9 by 16 inch. It has 6 holes which are separated by an angle of 12 degree. The distance between the first and the sixth is 12 mm. The pins are 4 mm in diameter and 6 mm long. There is one more 7th pin which has been introduced recently for Enternox, which is slightly thicker. This is your pin index system. Every gas has a special pin index for itself. You have to remember the radius, the degrees, the length, the diameter, and how many pins are present. This is the pin index system. The air has a pin index of 1,5. Oxygen has a pin index of 2,5. And your nitrous, these are 2. It has a pin index of 3,5. Oxygen has 2 molecules, so it has 2,5. Nitrous has 3 molecules, it is 3,5. And air is 1,5. This is something I hope you all understand and you remember too. Moving forward now, Enternox. Enternox is 7 only. Enternox is only 7 which is present at the center. Okay. Done with oxygen, nitrous oxide, Enternox and air. Then we come to certain combinations like oxygen with CO2 which is less than 7.5 and oxygen with CO2 which is more than 7.5. More than 7.5 it is 1,6 and less than 7.5 it is 2,6. The same goes for your oxygen and heliox also. Less than 80% of helium is 2,4 and more than 80% is 4,6. Mostly that what is asked is your oxygen, your nitrous, your cyclopropane 3,6, your Enternox and your air. And this is you have to memorize, you have to revise the pin indexing again and again in order to have a very sharp and a quick memory of this pin index system. Moving, each cylinder has a label attached to it which is meant for identification of the cylinder. It has various batch numbers, codes, volumes, pressures, the filling date, the tar weight, the pressures, and the test when was done, when was the cylinder actually tested. When we come about the testing of the cylinder, every cylinder has to be tested 5 years. Under special circumstances, when a cylinder batch gets a 5-star rating, then it gets a leverage that it can be tested at every 10 years also, but mostly the time is 5 years. And do we have to check each and every cylinder? No, it's not like that. 1 in 100 cylinder is checked in a batch for the impact, for the bending, for the tensile strength, for the hydraulic strength, etc. Every cylinder is tested every 5 years. It's not every cylinder which is tested. It is one cylinder of the 100th batch that is tested. Now coming to the last parts of the high pressure system, we have a pressure indicator which is present on the cylinder, which is color coded, which has name and the symbol of the gas. The special things about the pressure indicator is that the pressure indicator is Borden type and it can withstand 33% more of the filling pressure of the cylinder. Okay, 33% plus of the filling pressure it can withstand. It has a constricted entry of the gases. It looks something like a clock if you see it carefully, and the arrow is going to move according to the pressure of the gas in the cylinder. The special part of this is that it gets vent. If suppose the pressure of the cylinder increases very high, it will vent through the back of the pressure indicator and not the front. That is, if Borden tube ruptures, gas is vented from the back side of the gauge and not from the front, which is a protective mechanism. It is going to be scaled at 33% more than the maximum filling pressure. Suppose the maximum filling pressure is say 10 psi, so the pressure indicator scales will be 33% more than 10 psi. Lastly, we come to the pressure regulators. The pressure regulators are meant to decrease the high pressures to your intermediate pressure so that you can have more constant and a low flow of your anesthesia gases. And the concept of these pressure regulators is that pressure and area are inversely proportionate to each other. So in the start, the pressure is high, area is less, and eventually what are we going to do in these pressure regulators? We will increase the area through which the gas goes and thus the pressure drop is seen. These are your pressure regulators, first stage pressure regulators. This is the working principle of your first stage pressure regulators. And lastly, we come to the check valves. Check valves will help that there is no leakage of the cylinders, plus there is no mixing of the cylinders. If two cylinders are attached to the machine, there is no mixing of the cylinders. Other than that, there is one more concept I want to share with you all is preference. The assertion that comes for the preference is that your pipelines are always at slightly higher pressures than the what your cylinders can give. Suppose if the cylinder changes the high pressure to a certain pressure, say X psi, but the pipeline delivery to the anesthesia machine is at Y psi, the Y of the pipeline is always more than your X because of the preference that first the anesthesia machine should deliver oxygen via your central supply of the oxygen, and the cylinders that are attached to the anesthesia machine are more of the reserve type. Because just imagine if the pressure at your cylinder is more than what the pipeline is giving on the back of your anesthesia machine, and if suppose the valve is open, left open by any chance, then your all oxygen will be delivered. ठीक है, the all oxygen of the cylinder will get delivered to the patient and you'll never know that the cylinder is empty. And by any chance, the pipeline gets stopped or some problem happens at the central supply, so you have no reserve that is left on the oxygen at the back of your machine. So the pipeline pressure is always preferred and is always get slightly higher than your cylinders which are attached to the anesthesia machine. And ideally, your cylinders should always be in an off position when you are getting a pipeline supply of the oxygen. When we talk about the cylinders, one thing I've forgotten in the nitrous oxide cylinder, which I would like to just add here, is the frosting. See, when I told you about the nitrous oxide cylinder, I very clearly told you it's a liquid which gets converted into vapors. Okay, and we have a vapor pressure that is generated above that liquid. And when some liquid is getting converted to your gas, obviously there is a latent heat of vaporization that is being used. Thus, the temperature is going to change. There is a drop in temperature because some amount of heat is being consumed by the liquid to get converted into gas. And thus, because of this thermal gradient, the liquid inside is going to take more heat from your environment, from the walls of the cylinder, and eventually cooling the walls of the cylinder, leading to frosting around the cylinder. So the cylinder, which can be seen like frosting, is present on the body of the cylinder, and even sometimes it is so high that your pressure regulators or your pressure relief valves get frosted. This is the characteristic of your nitrous oxide cylinder, or per se you can say of any liquefied compressed gas, but most importantly that when we talk about anesthesia is your nitrous oxide. So frosting is present because of the latent heat of vaporization of nitrous oxide. Coming over to the oxygen sources, this has become important because of the COVID pandemic that we have seen. We have liquid oxygen tanks which are present, which are based on the concept of vacuum insulated evaporators. You only have to remember this name, that the principle on which liquid oxygen tanks work is vacuum insulated evaporators, and the temperature is like minus 160 degrees Celsius. I already told you the critical temperature of oxygen is minus 119 degree Celsius. So minus 160 degrees Celsius, you can liquefy your oxygen. The pressure at which it delivers your oxygen is 5 to 10 atmosphere. The second source that we have is oxygen concentrators, and it is developed on the principle of pressure swing adsorption technology. That is, your air passes through an adsorbent which is nothing but zeolite. Zeolite is your desiccated aluminium. It is an aluminium silicate, that is your zeolite. The ambient air passes through it and it absorbs everything other than oxygen, and thus oxygen is delivered to your patient. In this, the FiO2O, that is the oxygen that you can deliver, is around 96% pure oxygen. These things are generally used for domiciliary purposes, or certain remote locations can use your liquid oxygens. Then storage, the cylinders have to be stored in well ventilated room, fireproof, and the temperature at which cylinders have to be stored are 10 to 40 degrees Celsius. And yes, in previous years, a assertion reason has come over the cracking of the cylinders. The cracking of the cylinders is a concept, a protective concept, in order to prevent the flash fires. What cracking means is that when you open the valve of the cylinder, it has to be opened very, very slowly. Open the valve slowly, turn by turn and not like in just one go you open the valve. It is moved slowly and slowly such that all the dust, oil, or whatever is present around the valve gets dissipated first, and there is not a sudden increase in the heat which can lead to flash fires, which is also known by the Joule-Thomson effect, or in order to prevent your adiabatic compression. In order to avoid this, because of the Joule-Thomson effect, we have to move the slowly, we have to open the cylinder, and this concept is known by the name of cracking. Okay, yeah, this is a star kind question, that flash fires can be contained or it can be prevented in the cylinders by using the concept of cracking. In previous year, one question was asked about the yoke assembly. That is, the washer has to be present in a good condition. The reason that has been given is, yes, in order to prevent the leakage. The last concept of today's session is your oxygen tank duration. This numerical is coming these days. That is, how much time will your oxygen cylinder actually work? For example, if you have an oxygen cylinder of E type, which is the most commonly used, every cylinder has a tank factor. The E type has a tank factor of 0.28. Remember the tank factors of two cylinders, E and H. E is 0.28 and H is 3.14. Of course, H is a bigger cylinder. So tank factor 0.28 into the pressure that is present in the cylinder. For example, it is 500 psig or 2000 psig, whatever it is given in the question. You have that pressure upon at what flow rate have you opened the cylinder. Suppose at 10 liters per minute you have opened the cylinder. So this is the time that is going to come upon that how much time the cylinder is going to work. This is your oxygen tank duration. So this was all about your high pressure system. In the next very session, we'll be dealing with the intermediate and the low pressure system. Thank you.